Look down at your keyboard. A is all the way on the left, B is somewhere near the bottom, and C isn't even close to either of them. Someone took the alphabet, the order that every person learns from childhood, and scrambled it. Then the whole world basically agreed to keep it that way. This exact layout was created in the 1870s. It survived 2 world wars, the invention of the internet, and the journey from heavy metal machines to shiny glass screens. In 1868, in Milwaukee, a printer named Christopher Latham Sholes built one of the first typewriters that really worked. Its keyboard looked exactly how you would expect. The letters were arranged in 2 rows, starting with A, B, C, D, and going all the way to Z. It was like a piano. It made perfect sense. Anyone could find any letter quickly, and it almost immediately failed. To understand why, you need to look inside the machine. Under the keys was a circle of thin metal arms. There was 1 arm for every letter. When you pressed a key, its metal arm moved upward and hit the paper from underneath. From underneath. That meant the typist could not actually see the words they were typing. The paper covered the writing. You had to type without looking, and then lift the whole carriage to check your work. But there was a problem. Every metal arm had to hit the same small area on the paper. If 2 arms sitting next to each other were pressed quickly, one after the other, they could hit each other in the air. They would lock together and stop. And because you could not see the paper, you might not even know it happened. You could keep typing. Sometimes you could type a whole line. Then you would lift the carriage and discover that something had gone terribly wrong. So Sholes needed to solve a problem. But it was not the problem people usually think about. He was not trying to slow typists down. He wanted people to type as fast as possible. He just needed his machine to handle that speed. To understand how to do this, he looked at some of the fastest typists in the world. In the 1870s, the fastest way to send messages over long distances was the telegraph. Telegraph operators sat in rooms, listened to Morse code, and turned dots and dashes into words in real time. They had to type almost as fast as the messages arrived. They were some of the first people who had to type at the speed of information. Researchers later noticed something interesting. Many of Sholes's keyboard choices made sense for the problems these operators faced. In American Morse code, some signals could sound very similar. Sometimes an operator could not be completely sure what they heard until the next letter arrived. So letters that could easily be confused needed to be close together. That way, the operator could quickly reach either one. So the keyboard was not just a random mess of letters. It was shaped by the needs of people who used machines at very high speed. Then came the most important change. Sholes started looking at which letters appeared most often next to each other in English. One of the most common pairs is T followed by H. Look at where T and H are on your keyboard. They are on different rows and are typed with different hands. That was intentional. Sholes separated common letter pairs and moved them to opposite sides of the machine. This meant their metal arms would come from different directions and were less likely to hit each other. And here is the part that changes the whole story. Separating the letters between 2 hands did not necessarily make typing slower. In fact, using 2 hands and switching between them can be faster than using 1 hand repeatedly. So the keyboard layout that people thought was designed to make typing slower may actually have helped people type faster. In 1874, a company called Remington started selling the machine. Remington made guns and sewing machines. They already knew how to manufacture things in large numbers, and this strange keyboard spread around the world. Within a few years, typewriters became better. Jamming became less common. The original problem slowly started disappearing. So why didn't anyone change the keyboard? Because of what happened in 1888. A typing competition was held in Cincinnati. A court clerk named Frank McGurran came to the competition and did something that almost nobody was doing at the time. He typed without looking at his fingers. He had memorized the scrambled keyboard, and he beat his opponent badly. Newspapers reported the story. Typing schools started teaching his method, and they taught it using the same keyboard layout he had learned. Then, in 1893, the biggest typewriter companies joined together. They agreed to use the same scrambled keyboard on their machines. That was basically the end of the argument. Not because it was proven to be the best keyboard, but because everyone had already learned it. Someone did try to change it. In 1936, a professor named August Dvorak created a new keyboard. He designed it around how the English language actually works. The most commonly used letters were placed under the strongest fingers. People still argue about whether the Dvorak keyboard was actually faster. But it didn't matter. By that time, changing the keyboard did not just mean changing a machine. It meant retraining almost every typist in the world. Now, if you are in France or Germany, you might be shaking your head, because your keyboard may not say QWERTY. France uses AZERTY. Germany, Austria, and Switzerland use QWERTS. But look closely. They are still basically the same keyboard. They still use the basic layout created in the 1870s. Only a few keys were moved around to fit local languages. In Germany, for example, Z was moved because it is used more often in German. France made some other changes too, but the basic structure stayed. The same companies sold the same machines in different countries, and only changed what was necessary. So where does that leave us today? Look inside your laptop. There is no circle of metal arms. There are no swinging metal levers. There is no paper hiding your words. And there is nothing inside that can get stuck in the way old typewriters did. The original problem is completely gone, but the solution is still here. You are typing on a solution to an old problem. A workaround for a broken machine from more than 100 years ago has been perfectly preserved inside a device that does not even have the moving parts that caused the original problem. And that is one of the strangest things about the objects around us. Some of them are not really designs anymore. They are ghosts of old problems. They are shapes and systems created for problems that disappeared a long time ago. So the next time your fingers move toward a letter that seems to be in a completely strange place, remember what it is really doing. Your fingers are moving around a metal arm that hasn't existed for more than a century. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.